Welcome to Grounding Ascension, where we explore topics around activating and integrating our I am presence, coming back to our true selves. I am your host, Celeste Glus. Aloha and welcome back. I'm pretty excited for this new series because I think we all are looking forward to the holiday season. And one of the biggest things that I am seeing is that because we've spent so much time indoors, our wellness lifestyle and choices have been really affected. So I've decided to put this series together to just bring that to the forefront of our lives. To really remember that wellness is a choice, and we have to make that choice day by day, moment by moment. And for some reason, and I'd love to have this conversation, during the holiday season, that choice becomes a little bit harder to make for a lot of people. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, especially during this year that not only has our wellness perhaps taken a side road or a shift, but now with the holidays amongst us, there's almost this sensation of, well, I might as well just throw it all away, right? And what I'm going to present to you in this series is, why not start now? Why not start in November when we can, quote unquote, get ahead of the holiday season, the holiday rush, this overwhelming need to make healthy choices for ourselves in the midst of chaos. That's what I feel like it always comes down to. Like, the only difference is, can you hold your shit together when you're in the midst of desserts and meals and parties and all these things? And perhaps maybe it won't be as busy this year as other years, but I do hope that you do have the opportunity to gather and enjoy and celebrate around food and friends, because I do think that's so beautiful and powerful. And at the same time, you can make healthy choices for yourself and feel good about them and walk into a new year, because we will all get there eventually. We'll all get to 2021. Walk into a new year feeling good without this overwhelming pressure and stress and need to lose the holiday 15 or whatever you want to call it. At this point in my life, I've just decided not to believe or live out those things. And I think that's a big part of it too. Just claiming it for yourself once and for all. Really realizing, like, I'm going to create a healthy holiday season, and I'm still going to have a blast, and I'm still going to enjoy it. I'm still going to have fun and eat all the things that I'd like to eat, right? In balance. And we'll be talking about that. But I don't need to get out of control in order to go on this yo-yo cycle that I do every year, right? And I'm just saying that, quote unquote. Not everybody lives that, but that is a common thing, right? So I figured the first place to really start, and this is obviously pertaining to women, is really understanding our cycles. So the power of aligning to our cycle, most specifically during the holiday season. So if you haven't aligned to your cycle, if you don't know how to track your cycle, this is the episode for you, and it's also the time for you, because when we are in the midst of having to hold our center, having to make decisions that are going to benefit us most in regards to our health, our cycle is key in helping us determine how best to move forward. It's absolutely foundation when we talk about wellness for women. And I'm just taken back every single time I speak to more women and realize how many are really not aligning to their cycle. And it's not their fault, because we are not educated. I wasn't aligning to my cycle until I started, right? It's not something I grew up with, so I get it. And at the same time, it is really our responsibility to educate ourselves, because there's so much out there, right? And it's really a life changer. You will not be able to look at your wellness and your lifestyle the same way after you start aligning to your cycle. So let's talk first and foremost about why is it important to connect with our cycles? Well, when we're not connected, when we're not aligned, or when we're not tracking our period and we are not educated in doing that, oftentimes what happens is that we are struggling and pushing our way through life, much like the masculine is able to do easily from day to day. And the reason for that push and that struggle is because we're not actually rooted in our being. We're not actually connected to what's happening in our body. So we are pushing against our natural rhythm. We don't even know it. It's just simply what happens. It's not something that we're aware of. We just simply think, okay, I just have to push through this. Let me get some coffee. It is what it is. And that is not the case. Understanding your cycle and aligning to your cycle gives you the freedom and the ability to not have to push so hard every day. Now, I'm not saying that life is going to become easy for you, right? Or you don't have to wake up every day and really face challenges and do the things that you have to do. Absolutely not. But there will definitely be a different approach from the inside out. So if we're not honoring the 4 different phases of our cycles, chances are our mental and emotional bodies are off balance, or they become off balance at some point during our cycle, because our cycle is regulated by hormones, and our hormones completely and directly affect our mental and emotional states. So, for example, if you are not aware of what season in your cycle you're in, you're likely not eating accordingly to sustain your body emotionally, energetically, and physically, right? This is super hyper important, super duper important to understand that your body needs different nutrition every single week, because every single week we step into a new season, which requires a different kind of nourishment, both physically, emotionally, and even energetically. So I used to be actually one of those people that just ate pretty much the same thing every day, all the time, because it was my lifestyle and it was my diet. It was what I ate to stay lean or to stay in the lifestyle that I was in. And I experienced a lot of ups and downs with energy, with weight, with mood. And it was really unhealthy, but I had no idea. I just thought it was normal. I just thought I had to push my way through it. If you don't have energy, big deal, make it happen anyway, right? And I come to find out later that that is not the case. When we are eating according to our season and also honoring the season that we're in and living according to that season, we don't have to feel that way. And in fact, we can actually show up more in our truth, more in alignment to what's happening in our bodies. So let's talk about all 4 seasons that our body goes through every month. We experience 4 different seasons in each month, and they are governed by our hormones, which basically regulate our emotional and physical well-being. And there is a huge issue in today's world with hormone disruption because of all the toxins and chemicals in the air, the food, the water, and obviously with birth control, pharmaceuticals, and things like that. So this takes on a huge toll on our bodies and affects our menstrual cycle. We have to understand that when we are exposed to these toxins and these hormone disruptors, and we're not doing anything about them, we're not willing to change the makeup we use, to change the fragrances, the cleaning products, the foods we eat, all of these tiny choices, then we're not going to be able to have a natural cycle. We're not going to be able to regulate our hormones. And this is a massive issue in our society today. So if you are on birth control pills, or if you are feeling the effects of hormone disruption, I highly recommend that you look deeper into that and detoxing your lifestyle and coming into more of a cleaner wellness approach. And considering what I just said, I will be speaking on each phase, but keep in mind that if you are on birth control, you may not actually be able to feel or connect to each of these phases because the pill that you're taking is artificially regulating your hormones on a daily basis. So you're actually not able to experience this physically because your hormones are not allowing for it. So let's go ahead and break down the 4 different phases and what to expect in each. Now, just a reminder, you can always go and sign up to my free Align with Womb Wisdom course, where you can actually experience more of an in-depth look into each season. So I won't be spending too much time on each. Okay, let's get to it. So we're going to start with winter, which is my favorite part of the month. Winter is bleeding time. It's menses. So what to expect during winter time? Obviously, all of your hormones are very low, and it's a really good time to go inside, to take time for self-care, for quiet time, for retrospection. It's a time where you don't want to be out and about. You don't want to be pushing yourself physically, emotionally, energetically. It's an extremely restorative time. I always remind myself that in the ancient cultures, women would highly revere this time of month, and they would gather and they would leave their villages and praise this time and come together and really allow each other to explore deeply into what happens on a mental and spiritual level. So menses for me is a very spiritually heightened time that must be respected. And when it is not, oh boy, she will let you know. The divine feminine will speak to you loudly. And often, what does that mean? It looks like cramps. It looks like being moody and annoyed and frustrated and in pain, right? This is what happens when we do not honor our menses and we just pretend that it's just this thing that's kind of in our way, right? It's like, ugh, this thing that's happening. When is it over? I have 3 more days or whatever. That is not the attitude to take. That is basically telling your body that you're annoyed with your body. And this is one of the big foundational reasons why so many women struggle with body image and self-love and ability to really have a healthier relationship with themselves because they don't understand their relationship to their cycle. So again, this is so foundational in wellness because I spent so many years in holistic nutrition and as a wellness coach and all of these different areas of wellness and well-being, but nobody ever told me that womb wellness and cyclical living was such a foundational part of that. It's like you look at the pie chart of wellness, what you should actually put underneath it as the foundation is your womb wellness, right? The womb cycle should be in the background of the entire wheel because it actually affects every single sector of your wellness pie chart, which is your food, your relationships, your lifestyle, your emotions, right? All of that actually has the foundation of your cycle behind it. So it's really important to understand that when you are bleeding, it's a very sacred time that really needs to be honored. All right, let's go into spring. So springtime is when you are done bleeding, in between bleeding and ovulation. So what to expect at this time? Well, your quote unquote seed or your energy is growing. That's the metaphor that we always see with springtime. So you're just coming out of this dark cave of spiritual expansion and understanding, and you're slowly crawling out of it, understanding and learning how to get back onto your feet. That's like the easiest way to look at it. Okay. Your creativity starts to rise. You start to receive information. You start to plan things out for the month ahead of you. Your energy and your hormones begin to rise. So often what happens, and this used to happen to me very early on when I started tracking my cycle, is that I wasn't very aware of the difference of each season, and also my cycle was not balanced. So whenever I would get into springtime, because I felt energy rising, I thought, great, I can run and go sprint with it. And what happened time after time is that I would experience burnout. And this is really, really common. In springtime, we have just finished bleeding and we are only gathering back our resources, our fuel, our energy, our creativity. So it's a great time to bring things together and start to build your foundations. But you don't want to be working at full gear. You don't want to be working out at full force. You don't want to be out there in the midst of everything, right? You want to have the balance of being in the cave, but also getting out into the sunshine. There's this little in between area. Now, after this, we come into summertime, which is ovulation time. And this is where I believe most women are living the entire month, because this is how I used to live. And this is how our world, most specifically our Western world, teaches us how to live. You should be living as if you are ovulating, or if you're in summertime, all the time. You should be in manifestation mode. You should be in go mode. You should be productive and creative and out there and networking, blah, 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 blah. Wow, that is crazy. That's a crazy way to live, and it's not healthy at all. So yes, in summertime, you totally have the energy to do that. It's really interesting. One of the fun things that I've learned about this process is that during winter time, so I'm going back a little bit, during winter time, our auric field, our energy field, it starts to ripen, kind of crackle open. So this is why we can become, me, I live this every month, extremely sensitive and empathic during winter time, while the time that we're bleeding. In summertime, it's the opposite. Our auric field actually becomes stronger. It's like we have an extra layer of protection. And so, for example, when you have to get things done, or when you have to fight for something, or when you have to go at it with maybe something that you're uncomfortable with, or you want to do a very strong workout, or you are finding out that there's this really hard situation that you're not sure how to deal with, summertime is a great time to do that, because you have like this extra gear on you, right? So it's a great time to understand that you are capable of doing these things and really take advantage of it. But this is not the time to fill your calendar, right? Oftentimes, this is a time where we take out our calendar and we're like, oh my God, I just got the best ideas for the next 3 weeks. This is what I'm going to do. And then a week and a half later, you're just bummed out, completely exhausted, because you didn't realize it was only a period of time, right? So it's just really important to know that summer is great. It's definitely the time to be out there in full gear, but don't get yourself overwhelmed and don't fatigue yourself long term, thinking that your body's going to sustain those hormones for the rest of the month. And this leads me into the fall time, which is shortly after ovulation, pre-menses. This is also one of my favorite times. In the beginning of tracking my cycle, I would always notice that my subconscious, so like the mental aspect of my being, would always come to the forefront. And what that means is that like your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, all of this stuff starts to come up during the fall. And if you're not aware of it, we can really fall into aggression, frustration, fear, anxiety. This is what we call PMS, unfortunately, because we don't understand what's happening. So as we step into fall, again, we're preparing our bodies, or really our bodies are preparing us to go back into the cave of resurrection, of darkness, of rebirth, of transformation. So your body is telling you, and it's scraping out that extra layer that you had in summertime that was super protective. Now it's scraping out that layer and it's saying, okay, now let's get into it. Let's start to see what's behind all of this stuff. What are you really thinking? What are you really feeling, right? And something that I read one time in a beautiful book, I can't remember which one it was, PMS stands for, or you can make it stand for, please make space. And I thought that was genius, because it's truly the time to please make space. And once I started to do that and honor that, wow, I really embraced fall time because I realized it's such a great opportunity for me to be softer with myself first and foremost. And then also to be softer with those around me. Because oftentimes, because your body is more susceptible to the subconscious, more susceptible to your fears and frustrations and anxieties and all these things that we don't always have access to, right? In spring and summer, that stuff is not really at the forefront. At fall is when it really comes up. So this is such an opportunity for us as women to really soften into our hearts, to soften into our womb space, to really tap into our womb wisdom and get deeper into what is happening and how can I take this as a learning experience to become better, to become stronger. So, as I said earlier, when you're not honoring this phase, it can be one of the most almost devastating and painful parts of your cycle. But when you start to track your cycle and you start to really work with it and align your life to it, you will notice that the fall has a lot of beautiful medicine and gifts for you. So, like I said earlier, being able to learn how to align my life with my cycle has revolutionized the way that I live. It has revolutionized the way that I approach my day and my weeks and my months tremendously. I mean, I really don't have words for it. And one of my biggest passions is to share this with more women. So again, there's the free online course. You can check out the link below. I've also created a journal, which I'm really, really excited to share with you. It's called Track Your Period Journal. And it will basically help you align your cycles to your calendar month, which I can't even wait to get my hands on it. So keep an eye on that. And in both of these, I go into a little bit more in depth about how to eat according to each cycle so that you can really understand how to balance your seasons and balance your hormones and understand that your menstruation and your cycle is your biggest gift and also indicator of your health. And one more thing I want to mention about indicators of your health in regards to living according to your cycle is your cervical mucus. Your cervical mucus is incredibly accurate with telling you what is happening on in your body and what is happening on with your hormones. So if you're not tracking your cervical mucus, you definitely need to start today because it's a key indicator of our health. It basically tells you how your hormones are doing and how fertile you are. So if you are looking to explore more of that, I highly recommend it. Check out my natural birth control course called Activate Womb Wisdom. But basically, the more liquidy and egg whitish your cervical mucus is, the more fertile and healthy you are. And the more dry it is, the less fertile and less healthy your hormone cycles are. Now, keep in mind, this is around ovulation, right? You shouldn't have liquidy egg white cervical mucus all month. That's completely not natural. But if you are dry around ovulation, that is a sign that your hormones need to be looked at. And not only is it a sign of fertility and health, but what I've noticed is that cervical mucus is so freaking accurate. It literally will shift every time my lifestyle changes. And I'm not talking about major lifestyle. I'm talking about when I have more workload, when I have more stress or less stress, when my sleep cycle is different, when I have different situations to deal with in my life, when my energy body takes a toll, like any tiny little thing. As I track my cycle, I notice that my cervical mucus is affected. And that is a sign that my hormones are being affected. So it's really insane and really, really accurate. And I learned so much about how to take better care of my body, of my life, and my daily experiences throughout my seasons. So for me, it's kind of like a beautiful and bizarre science experiment. I kind of feel like a scientist in Jurassic Park. It's like I'm super intrigued and fascinated with every new discovery that I make. And I'm realizing how attuned our bodies are to everything that's happening around us, not just food and not just stress. So I hope this has given you a bigger and better idea of why it's so important to align with your cycle as a woman and really start to take your cycle as a key indicator of how you're doing in regards to your well being. So, if this is something that interests you and you would like to start this holiday season off in a good start and also step into 2021 with support and community, I have created a 60-day wellness challenge. It actually happened in the midst of this voting extravaganza that we were all experiencing, where everybody was just on anxiety overload. And I just decided enough is enough. We need to come back to our centers. We need to start realigning to our well being and to our bodies, no matter what is happening outside of us. So, I present to you the 60-day wellness challenge, which we will be starting on this Sunday. But if you are listening to this afterwards, just simply email me. And basically, it's not something that is meant to overwhelm you and keep you on adrenaline mode day after day, right? The idea, like I said before, is to really create a foundation and a community that will support you through creating a healthier lifestyle that is aligned to your cycle. So expect to have one weekly bar workout that is aligned to your cycle, a weekly guided meditation, because I love those and I think we all need them, and one weekly Zoom call so that you have the support that you need and you start to understand how to align your life to your cycle. So if this is something new for you, it's the perfect time. I will be guiding all the women involved into learning how to align their lifestyles to their cycle so that they can remain well and centered and zened through the holiday season, but also into 2021, right? Because I'm just no longer in that mode of waiting things out. We can't wait till this thing's over. We can't wait until 2021. The time is now. So if you're interested in aligning to your cycle, whether it is with your workouts or your lifestyle, and you are wanting a little bit more support and guidance from a more holistic mind-body approach, definitely reach out to me. I would love to speak to you and I would love for you to join us. All right, my lady friends, that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you could, please share this with other women. I would really appreciate it. I think we as women need to help each other, support each other, and also share more of what we're learning with each other, because there's just too much misinformation out there. There are too many women that are not understanding how to connect to their cycles. And I really believe that this is a revolutionary experience and responsibility that we all have. So if you can share this episode with a lovely girlfriend of yours, I would really, really appreciate it. Until next time, mwah.